killed himself! Oh my... I immediately just got killed.
Yeah, he's fucking dead.
I just shot the patch. Did I just kill someone? Who just ran at me?
We all like playing as the good guy. Power fantasy of beating the bad guys with nothing in your way to stop you. Iconic characters like Master Chief or Doom Guy who mow down waves of enemies while barely breaking a sweat. In contrast, Ready or Not puts you in the boots of your average SWAT team officer. You aren't the all-powerful hero in this story. You're a simple law enforcement officer who has to deal with the criminal underbelly of the fictional city of Los Sueños. From meth heads to terrorist cells, criminals act with impunity. Ready or Not takes place in the 2030s in the fictional city of Los Sueños, California, where crime runs rampant, corruption is commonplace, and respect for law enforcement is at all-time lows. You take the role of a SWAT officer in this continuation of the SWAT series, conducting raids and responding to active threats. Sounds like a pretty simple game, right? Plays the cop, arresting the bad guys. How deep can it get? Well, oh boy, let me tell you something. Void Interactive's level design, attention to detail, and storytelling ability through these two mediums is something that I've realized is almost unparalleled in the industry. I've seen plenty of videos discussing how they make a great horror atmosphere, and that's true, they do. But when you begin looking at the small details, it really even makes it worse. It makes your stomach churn. You feel disgusted. You actively hate these people you've been tasked with detaining because of what they are protecting. But we'll start on more of a schizophrenic, psychopathic note. We start on a dirt path leading through the woods. A barbed wire fence surrounds a 2-story cabin hidden in the trees. An RV burns in the driveway, black smoke pluming above. The windows are all boarded. Whoever lives here is expecting company. This is the home of an ex-United States Intelligence Agency officer, one Gerard Scott, 55, wanted for the murder of 5 police officers after torching a car in front of a police station and ambushing them. His compound hides disturbing writings and ramblings of a man who has lost his mind. In his compound, we can find depictions of regular police and SWAT officers with details describing locations to inflict damage and also describing them as being controlled by the Godhead. Even the ceilings contain ramblings of government programs like the Satanic Orbital Fluid Extraction, whatever that is. It includes the process of slime being injected into the optic pores and says how something called feats, I've never heard of these before, need proper nutrition and hydration, how a lack of both creates severe disturbances. He thinks something is living in our eyes. Also on the ceiling, we can find the writing saying, "We need no agenda, USIA." On the wall next to the stairs, he writes, "They are in your head, behind our eyes, clawing at our brains." Every sticky note surrounding it detailed with formulas and graphs that really make no comprehensive sense, although some serve as reminders. One reading takes hours to days for symptoms to appear. Tick-tock. Moving to the kitchen, we can find scribbles, this time on the fridge, describing, again, something known as the USIA Godhead, surrounded by formulas that really, again, make no sense. Next to the kitchen, we find a room with a projector running through a slideshow endlessly. The eyes of individuals depicted in the slides blacked out. The slides depict those we can assume to be intelligence officers, but others depict destroyed buildings, depict children smiling, and one in particular shows 3 individuals standing in front of what I believe is the White House. What was he looking for through these? However, the most disturbing practices lie in the basement. Dark, filled with cages and the corpses of small animals. We can see beans and flowers lying on drying trays underneath red lights. In the back room, we see written on the wall instructions for the making of one of the deadliest poisons known to man. A dry erase board depicts how many days it took for the poison to work, rendering its test subjects dead. It looks like we got here in time. They next plan to test it on their fellow man. Next to their board are detailed instructions on the crafting of a distribution system for the poison. Using spray bottles, plastic pop bottles, parts of a syringe, a bike tire stem, and a timing device, they have created a mechanism to distribute their poison after they're long gone. And also, looking at the name of these spray bottles, one of you avoid. You're a jokester. I love you. We luckily got here in time before they could assemble enough of these and sow terror among the populace of Los Sueños. In the bedroom of our suspect, we find a scene from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, that meme with Charlie in front of the conspiracy map. We find a map of Los Sueños accompanied by newspaper clippings of the deaths of individuals. Scott had some doubts about their deaths being accidental and believed his agency was behind them. On the reverse side of this board, we find something very peculiar. A paper from the Los Sueños Times reported on how a famous German code breaker cracked a code located on the USIA website, only to discover it was the instructions for making the poison that Gerard Scott is making in the basement. Why would the USIA have this on their website for people to discover and decode? Perhaps something more sinister is happening in their agency. He also believed that the populace was being watched, being monitored by towers, drones, and our phones. This madman's ravings led to him want to take matters into his own hands, to hurt innocent people. But could he be right about some things? Are they always watching? Always listening? Void intricately crafts the hideaway of a raving lunatic and madman and makes the atmosphere of the map feel real, horror-inducing, thought-provoking. It's a good look at their ability to tell a story with their level design, but where I think they do an even better job is through the 3-map story of stopping a trafficking and photography ring in the middle of Los Sueños. I'll just say this to preface: viewer discretion is advised. It gets pretty disturbing. This 3-map saga starts at the Mindjot data center, where we find servers providing storage for photos. I don't know how else to word it without this video getting flagged, but it's bad, okay? It's really, really bad. This discovery leads to a raid taking place in what is known in Los Sueños as the Row, an area of rampant homelessness and drug abuse. What used to be Martinez's safe injection clinic now stands Brixley's Talent Time, a talent agency for children. A new establishment, as the agency's name has just simply been written over the old sign in what looks like crayon. At the entrance, we find posters on the wall promoting Talent Time as a company that can make your child a star, and that they can receive free lessons alone. Disturbing. Behind the glass receptionist area, we find remnants of what used to be the injection clinic, with posters promoting safe needle usage. Vials still remain, presumably unopened, and medical equipment laid covered, abandoned by the former occupants. Moving to the lobby, we find a depressing scene. The ugly, dim room gives off a sense of dread. A waiting area in the corner has toys strewn about on the ground. Double doors lead to one of the most depressing areas I've ever seen in any form of media. We'll start to the right with the owner, Mr. Brixley's office. His desk stands in the middle of the room. On it, we can see a gun, along with a briefcase filled with money. And I'm standing back a little bit because lying scattered on the desk are headshots taken of the child actors at the agency, along with several other photos of them. It's becoming obvious what this place is. The agency acts as a front for the exploitation of their child actors. To finish the area around his office, we can inspect the bathroom, where we find resting on the toilet a movie poster with the face cut out and and headshots of the children plastered along the edges with the words, "You are also a star." We next move across the hall into a dressing room where we can see the headshots now enlarged on the wall. We can see the sad look in their eyes. It's obvious they needed help. Whoever created these at Void did a weirdly good job at having these elicit a reaction, because whenever I look at these, it's just so sad. Moving out of the dressing room and into the photo and development area, we see an area set up with lighting where the images are taken. In the corner, behind some leftover room dividers, we see a small area used to develop the photos and a computer left on by the operator. On it, we can read the last conversation. We can see it's been someone with the initials AV. The conversation reads, "AV, make the little redhead wear a princess dress." Attaches a photo. Brixley then replies saying, "Here, couldn't get her to smile though." AV replies, "Perfect, she's gonna look great on the cover. P.S. I'll get her to smile." The final room, what I like to call the contract signing room, is next to the photo area. The sign next to the door reads, "Mommies Only." Inside is where we can typically find Mr. Brixley, and usually not alone. We find another desk, and laying on top is a contract, fully written out to be signed by the parent. You can kind of read it, but not every single word, at least not with my eyes, but it's a fully fleshed out contract. And lying next to it is a couple of male prophylactics. So not only was Mr. Brixley abusing children, but also taking advantage of their mothers. Brixley chose this area to set up for a reason. The promise of your child becoming a star, getting you out of poverty, the riches, would flock victims to him, especially in the Row, the poorest area in Los Sueños. He abused those who already had a little left, and very well might have taken one of the few things they had left. A little interesting side note about the NPC character for Mr. Brixley: whenever you enter the room he's in, he typically just ends up shooting himself instead of facing the consequences of what he's done. And sometimes I just double check to make sure he did it the right way.
God.
But we still have a final chapter to this story. Brixley was the producer of the content, but what about that AV we saw asking for it? Cue Valley of the Dolls. We start out in front of a mansion located in the hills with a brand new car sitting outside and a sign reading Janie's 18th birthday party. I guess it will be one hell of a surprise. This is the house of Amos Vol, an adult movie star, so-called philanthropist, and to some, the sexiest man alive. Once again, the detail Void Interactive put into this map is just mind-boggling. From the awards that rest on Amos' shelves in his bedroom, to creating custom posters depicting the films he's created, some with his wife Daniela. In Amos' room, we can even find a note from her saying she's in the shower, and next door in his bathroom, we can find her. And she sometimes throws some hands, but I can take care of that. Moving downstairs, we can find the birthday girl's room, Janie. By all accounts, Janie's the average 18-year-old girl. We can find her plans for the week that include tutoring, in some cases at no charge. What a nice young lady. We can find pictures of her on vacations, and her computer is logged into a college website for ecology. From looking at Janie's computer, her TV, and also her calendar, we can conclude she's an environmentalist and cares deeply about the earth. Pretty cool. It's a lot of detail for someone who's just an innocent bystander. We can even find the new car sitting outside on her laptop. Janie's story, though, gets interesting when we look at the photos above her bed. One in particular has a woman and a man with a little girl, but the man's face is scratched out. It seems Janie is no fan of her father. On the reverse side of her bed is a photo with a note, reading, "Janie, your mother was always such a good subject to photograph. Here's one of my favorites of her. Happy birthday, sweetheart. I love you. Dad. P.S. I know you and Dana don't see eye to eye, but she loves you." Daniela is not Janie's mother. So what happened to her? Well, sitting on a small table, we find a photo of a woman who looks to be in a hospital, wearing a head covering typically worn by those undergoing chemotherapy for cancer. It's likely Janie's mother did not survive, and instead Amos married a co-star sometime after. This guy is definitely no Father of the Year candidate. Speaking of which, where is he? Moving through the second floor, we find his office. The safe underneath has been opened. Torn paper leads behind it to the balcony where boxes lay scorching, trying to burn the evidence of his misdeeds. On his desk are also several hard drives, one of which we'll take with us. Moving downstairs, we come to a hallway leading to the room Amos is spending his daughter's birthday party in. Entering, we are greeted with the lovely sound of moaning, and pausing on the projector is what we could assume to be one of his productions. Amos is spending his daughter's 18th birthday in his porn theater. What a disgusting man. Surely can't get worse, right? Well, besides finding hard drugs spread throughout the house, his raunchy art collection, and narcissistic tendencies of watching himself, he can't be that bad. The final area, the basement of the Vole estate, is what I can confidently say is the most disturbing area I have ever been in any video game ever, and I hate it. This is the one part I don't like doing on this mission because it makes me feel so uncomfortable. In the basement, in a small room, we can find a photo setup with a crib. Right outside in the hall, we can find bookshelves filled to the brim with cases labeled with names and numbers. In hundreds of cases, the numbers range from all the way from 6 to 13 if there are multiple names, I don't remember seeing them. Around the corner, a room is basked in red light. We see photo upon photo of victims. And around another corner, we can find pictures covering every square inch of a room, on the walls, on the floors, everywhere. And it appears Amos's obsession was just getting worse, because he started writing things on the wall that I don't even want to say because it makes me so uncomfortable. Buy the game, go play it yourself, and you can get scarred like me. Anyway, let's go check on Amos, shall we? Storytelling is something people have done for millennia now, starting with oral tradition of passing down stories, to writing them down on stone tablets, or parchment, to publishing them in books, creating novels, up to today, uploading them on the internet. But Void Interactive's ability to tell this type of story in this type of media, such dark stories, is something developers I think should take notice of. Their attention to detail, the smallest of details, and the ability to tell a fully fleshed out story with character backgrounds, motives, and just, like I said, those really small, minute details is something absolutely refreshing to see, and especially in even a tactical shooter. Many have described Ready or Not as a horror shooter, and that's true, but I think it becomes even scarier when you read into the stories and you really dig down purposefully in each level for those juicy details about why these scum do what they do. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little look at Void Interactive's ability to tell stories, and if you liked it, please consider liking and subscribing. This video took me a while to do, so I'd really appreciate it. Thank you guys. See you next time.